One of the things that I learned from whistleblowers from the cabal itself is that they have to work within something they call the rules. And this is very, very important. The rules are a body of spiritual principles that they must follow in order to be allowed to exist. Now, what do I mean by allowed to exist? I mean that they are aware that there are benevolent forces that will prevent them from achieving their goals unless we give them permission to enslave us. Ultimately, the universe is intelligent, alive, and conscious, and it is benevolent. It is a benevolent consciousness. That consciousness does not allow the negative to succeed unless it is invited. So the cabal has made a science, a very elaborate science, out of studying these arcane, occult, magical principles that allow them to get away with what they do. So they have to put out everything that tells you who they are in music videos, in these Super Bowl halftime shows, the Grammy Awards ceremonies. They're out there showing you the truth. This is what people are going to have so much trouble with once disclosure happens, is that these people actually practice black magic, and they are very, very good at it.
Now, this is the kind of stuff I could not make up, okay? The Pinder is the head of the cabal. That's the name of the top person in the 13 bloodlines. And that's what we're now calling Illuminati, would be these 13 bloodlines, the houses. What does Pinder actually mean? It's pretty weird. It means the pinnacle of the Draco, i.e. the #1 representative on Earth of the Draco. It also means the penis of the dragon. Now please, Foot, don't go doing that again. The current Pinder, the leader of the Illuminati, now we're being told, is the Rothschild family, so we don't need to look any farther than that. The only guys above the Rothschilds here on Earth would be these old ones, and the family masters and the trustees, but then the Pinder, of course, is the Rothschild, so that's why that name is so prominent. Now, here's the funny thing. The good guy ETs have come back recently, and I don't know why we got a little, oh, that went away, good. We had a little feedback. They have been betrayed by the Draco. This just happened in the last month. The Draco has been cornered, and there's something that's been created around our solar system called the barrier, and all the Draco that are inside our solar system cannot get out. And they are afraid of whatever this arrest scenario is going to be, because they will be held on trial as responsible for these crimes against humanity that they've perpetrated. They do not want this to happen. And they tried to strike a deal with the positive beings saying, if you let us go, we will offer everybody below our own royal caste in surrender to you, to the Alliance. That means the royals are only these 12 to 14 foot tall reptilians. That means they were going to betray the old ones, all of their supplicants who have done this vampire type process to gain immortality. That means all the 13 bloodlines. That means the Committee of 300, all the top Illuminati, everybody human was betrayed, and this just happened. So the Illuminati is in terrible state of disarray right now. Everything is going nuts. All these sub-factions are forming, and what's going to happen most likely is that they're all going to start exposing each other and betraying each other. So this year is very interesting. This Draco betrayal just happened. It has spread through the ranks. It is very real, and it has changed the game dramatically.
We redid a lot. As you remember, I made Space Force, and they tried to end it as soon as they came into office, and they had a revolt in the military. We created Space Force. That's the first time in 78 years since the Air Force that something like that's been done, creating a new branch.
I think that man will be President of the United States right about the time that spaceships come down filled with dinosaurs and red capes.
Years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on. They get out there in the woods in a circle, they decide these things, And, you know, look at him trying to cover it up.
Needless to say, all this UFO talk has the tinfoil hatters going wild, including Green Bay whackpacker Aaron Rodgers, who offered this hot take on the Pat McAfee show.
Did you hear about the Epstein client list about to be released, too? There's some files that have some names on it that might be getting released pretty soon.
Oh. Might be time to revisit that concussion protocol, Aaron.
All that's gone. And I'm, you know, I'd like to believe that at some point you have to stop pretending that yeah, you're right. Maybe we're not just as strong, you mean? Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think I'm gonna see next week. So I mean, we have time, but I'm going in and out of places. But not everyone has time.
You know, when you really find out what's going on and what's happening on Earth, it's very depressing, and it totally fits with biblical prophecy, because it appears that both gray aliens and reptilians are feeding on human bodies. That's one of the things that you learn. We need to get rid of these human traffickers. We need to get these aliens out of here, because they are demons, and it's worse than you think. It's a lot worse than you think. What's going on with the border? Most of those people are not going to become American citizens. That's what they call a meat wagon. And I heard about meat wagons all the way back in 2010, that they let people through the border, they put them on a bus, they drive them into an underground base, and whatever happens from there.
We are very much aware of that. I wasn't going to get into that in this, but since you bring it up, it's confirmed through so many sources, people on the ground. We know that that's happening. You're exactly right. And it's not just children, it's adults too. If you look at see, I can say things on Brighteon that I would never want to say on YouTube. That's true. Yeah. Well, welcome to Brighteon. Go for it. You know. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. There's a movie called Jupiter Ascending that was made by the Wachowskis, which they're the sisters who made The Matrix, right? I guess they identify as women now. So when we see Jupiter Ascending, there's reptilians and there's grays in the movie. And the spindly little grays are also answering to these people who in the movie are humans, but they're human-looking extraterrestrials, and they work with the reptilians. And what you find out in Jupiter Ascending is that these human-looking extraterrestrials are soaking in a liquid bath that's made from human bodies. This is apparently what grays have to do to survive. That's why their DNA is breaking down, is that their genetics, they cloned themselves off of a small subject pool. But the part that we don't know is that the way that they try to stay alive is by using human growth factors and stem cells. And we, as in our secret government, have made the grays an alternative option that can keep them alive, but they don't like the taste. So they're still human trafficking. So like if you go back to the Tom DeLonge disclosures that happened in whenever that was, 2015-ish, or whatever year it was, I can't really remember now, maybe 2017, something like that. But anyway, when the Tom DeLonge stuff came out, they showed you these sightings from a UFO around the USS Nimitz. You remember that? Of course, yes. Okay, I'm going to tell you something really dark, and I'm sorry, but what's happening is that those UFOs are pulling up to corrupted U.S. military elements, and then they pick up their payment from the ship. If you follow what I'm saying by payment, they're picking up their payments. Our military is doing this. We took a crappy deal. We took a horrible deal. And we now have enough technology that we can actually get rid of these people and stop the payments. But in order to do that, we're going to need a civilian space force. We're going to need a civilian-led, or at least a civilians with military, so that we can go against corrupted aspects of our own infrastructure that are actually cooperating with these beings and using this for their own sustenance, I guess. And wouldn't you know, I got a tractor driving right behind me. No, it's okay. And then, you know, Trump, of course, highlighted Space Force, and it's something that I think the Biden regime is trying to shut down. But politics aside, there are, at least according to the sources I've spoken with, white hat sources inside military intelligence and also Space Force and so on, that are
talking amongst themselves and to certain people about this battle is being waged right now. This is actually happening.
There is a war going on with the Draco right now, and Pete would talk to me about this, and he said that we were winning. There's about, from what Pete said, there's about 3,500 of these ships out there that been built, at least, that we're using. And he said there's Americans all over the galaxy. He said that we have colonized 65 locations off planet Earth throughout the galaxy, and that each one of these locations typically will have at least 3,500 soldiers there. And the big thing is to fight these reptilians. In fact, I just got a whole bunch of new information on the Draco today, believe it or not. They are distributed all throughout the constellation Draco. And apparently the reason the constellation Draco was named that way is because there's a lot of them out there.
Right.
So we are going to have to deal with this. We're going to have to deal with the human trafficking. We're going to have to stop. So what I'm trying to say, Mike, is that there's a direct through line between Greys, Satanism, Illuminati, human trafficking, and extraterrestrial UFO sightings. Okay, let me explain this to you because I wanted to do this somewhere, but not on YouTube.
Understandably, yes.
So Aleister Crowley arguably is the author of Satanism. The modern Satanism that the cabal follows was created by Aleister Crowley. They love him, okay? And I'm sure you know that. So what you may not realize is that Aleister Crowley was contacted by a being called Lam, L-A-M. And if you look up Lam, it's a gray, or it looks grayish. It's like a gray hybrid with more human-looking eyes. Lam is the being that taught Crowley how to do satanic ceremonies, how to summon beings like him, okay, which involves the sacrificing of life forms. So the aliens brought this to us. Do you understand? They want the elite to practice this, and an alien taught Crowley how to do Satanism. So these are demons, and you talk about this, Mike, but I'm just trying to connect some dots for you. So what then happens is,
well, yeah, but just a second, if you don't mind me interjecting.
Sure.
Just to help connect the dots for the listeners here as well. So when we talk about globalists and their current spike protein release for human depopulation, or what I've called trying to transform the planet into a post-human future, this is just a subset of what you're talking about, which is the extraterrestrial, the evil extraterrestrials have come in and taught the globalists how to do this, and actually how to empower more invocations of those dark forces through the mass extermination and sacrifice of living, conscious human beings. Is that correct?
Right. So here's my understanding. Not all Greys are doing this, okay? So I want to make that clear. There appear to be other, obviously we're in a huge galaxy and everybody looks human, so there's going to be humans that have big eyes that are not evil. However, one of the main contingents of Greys that are here, that are working with our secret government, they require human protein to survive, or so they think. They like the taste. They soak in it like a bath. I don't know how they prepare it. I don't know. They don't need, so the Greys apparently don't need Satanism to be involved in the preparation of the food, but the reptilians do. The reptilians, they prefer to eat meat, whereas the Greys actually do kind of like a blended human shake.
A human smoothie, yeah, got it.
So I'm sorry to talk about this, but I feel like I got to get this out somehow. If something happened to me, I wanted to make sure everybody knows this. So I don't think anything will, but
Well, if you don't mind me interjecting again,
sure.
Let's remember that a couple of U.S. states have legalized the liquefaction of dead human remains to be flushed into the municipal sewer systems, which is collected by, trucks, and it's called then biosolids, and it's spread onto the farms to be used as fertilizer. And this is something that we've documented extensively. And the reason I'm pointing this out is because this recycling of kind of like the Matrix, where the living are ground up and fed, the dead are fed to the living, which was in the Matrix 1999, this is actually happening even without the other things that you've just mentioned. So for anybody watching,
the Wachowski movie Jupiter Ascending talks about it,
right?
And then Cloud Atlas, right? They got the soap, which is a human drink that they're drinking.
Yeah, so this is, I mean, if anybody watching this is saying, oh, this couldn't possibly be true, go look up Washington state law about disposing of human remains in the sewer system. That was legalized, I think, 2 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even know that. That's disgusting.
Well, it's part of the biosludge.
It's a Mike Adams show. You got to expect anything when you get on with Mike Adams.
Well, no, you're hitting me with all kinds of stuff I didn't know, so keep going.
Well, I want you to know this because everybody in your community, my community, our community, you know, we're talking about Christianity, we're talking about demons, and I want to make some dots connect, okay? So that you understand that what the Bible was talking about is absolutely true. So the Greys apparently don't need the victim to be tortured at all. They could take any human, it doesn't matter. But with the Draco, they really need the victim to have suffered. Part of what they feed on is the energy that we release in death, in suffering.
Right.
There is a way to feed on that, apparently, energetically. And I've talked about how there was a guy named Wilcox who took fish eggs and then he put them next to fish eggs that were older. The older fish eggs will actually suck the health out of the younger fish eggs and kill them. And you can do this in a hermetically sealed container where the only thing in between is quartz, which allows ultraviolet to pass through. If you put a glass slide in there so that the ultraviolet photons can't pass through, then the weaker fish eggs do not die and wither. They're fine. So there's some method by which the stronger fish eggs suck the actual health, energy, and vitality out of the weaker eggs, apparently having to do with ultraviolet photons stored in the DNA itself. And so when you block those ultraviolet photons from being sucked out of the room, now the eggs don't die. This is apparently the same principle in the spiritual sense where negative entities can feed on fear and feed on suffering.
So then, in this context, most human beings living today are living in an oblivious human crop plantation, essentially, which is being harvested for that life force energy plus the human proteins for the human smoothies that you mentioned. And again, this is exactly what they talked about in The Matrix back in '99, that there were entire fields that were harvested. And even
batteries were all plugged into the Matrix to feed the Matrix.
That's right. And by the way, the elimination of the family is part of what's necessary to say that we don't need mothers any longer, that we can grow babies in these harvest farms, or we can grow them through, you know, modern medical science, what have you. So they eliminate the family and the motherhood, and then they eliminate the connection between the child and its mother.
I agree. So I want to finish this because it is dark, but I think we should get through it. So the next stage would be to see that you can, I would never, ever want to be involved in this, but these depraved people can perform a ceremony and summon these beings. I don't know if a gray is going to necessarily look like a gray. He might project some other image that looks like a gargoyle or a more traditional demon. It might still be a gray. But they do apparently become visible at the end of these ceremonies. So one of my insiders said that there's one of the laptop videos is of a session ending and something materializing at the end. He only heard the audio of it. He hasn't seen it yet. And I don't know if any of us are going to see this, but we also need to be prepared that part of the big awakening that we're about to go through could be a much more sobering and terrifying realization that the people who are praying to demons are actually getting results where these demons appear in front of them. And we're going to all know this as an absolute fact. That's what I think is going to happen.